Okay, so here we are back again. I've got this creature kind of, his mouth kind of tuned up a little bit. I just use a really inexpensive watercolor brush. Just get slightly damp, and I came in and I used that to just kind of massage some of the details. Kind of smooth things out. Because it was getting a little bit messy in there. There were a bunch of score marks up here, and I just cleaned all that up by gently using that inexpensive watercolor brush just to clean it up. Okay, so now I did have, I said that there were little sucker-like forms on the lips, and so I'm just going to use the back end of this brush to just kind of put some little indentations. Notice how I'm supporting that lip. These are what my creature grabs its prey with. And you get the idea. I'm just going to put a whole bunch of these on here where I have space. I'm working around these hollow spots because I want to have a little bit of contrast. I think if I use too many of these marks, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. I like the contrast of some texture and no texture. Okay, I think that's pretty interesting now. So, some little minor details just by pressing in there. Now, I've got other things that I need to resolve, and part of it is the fact that my creature has armor. So I've got this pin that I found, and I've got my keys over here. These are my work keys, and I've got this is a wrench for to turn the water on outside. And I think that this is gonna, when I look on the inside, I like the way this looks. And I think that I'm gonna use that for some of its armor. I might use that pin cap too, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try a few things out. I'm gonna go ahead and take this thing, and I'm just gonna press it into the surface and see what I think. I do have to be careful. It looks like it wants to collapse a little bit, so I'm gonna have to reach in and back it up. My finger is in its mouth. I'm just pressing that in repeatedly. And I kind of like this mark that I'm leaving behind. He does look like it's armored. Or she, or it. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep using my keys. You might reach into your pocket and see what you've got to create whatever effect you want on the surface. And again, I'm making sure that I'm backing it up by sticking my finger through the mouth. If I have any problem with messing up or distortion of the teeth or anything, I can always go back and fix those, but I need that support. Otherwise, the walls are just going to collapse. Okay, that looks pretty cool. I kind of like that. So, I guess I'm not going to use my pen. I could have, if I wanted to use that, I could have pressed that in and I would have gotten an interesting mark. This end would have given me an interesting mark. I had another pen at the ready here, and I might still use this. This one's got a really interesting arrangement. Let's see what that looks like in conjunction with this other. Just as a surface decoration, that's an interesting contrast, this to this. So I kind of like that. I think I'll scatter some of these marks in through there too, because I think they'll just look very interesting. It makes it look very mechanical. This one's a little bit less aggressive and doesn't require me to support it nearly as much. So I'll use those around the features, around features like this, because it's smaller and I can get that in there and it leaves a nice mark. So I'll press into the surface to give it that texture. On the back side, I have decided that I want to add some spines because I think it's kind of boring, so I made a bunch of these little spines, and I think I'll add those to it. But you do want to consider this. After you score slip and bond those on, you will need to have a slot in the back of your creature to accept your smartphone so that this thing can become a speaker. So just keep that in mind. I'll have to add these on top of some of the armor marks that I've made, and that's okay. I can deal with that. Another feature that I'm going to have to add is going to be my little, let's get this, my smell receptors. And they just look like little buttons. So for those, all I'll do is I'll come over And I've got one right in the middle of its head right here, scheduled to be in there. And I think I rolled this ball out earlier and it's gotten really hard, so I'm going to get rid of it because it's too hard for this right now. But I'm going to grab a little ball of clay. I'm just going to roll that in my fingers and find the area where I want to locate it. Score that area. Add a little water. Then I'm going to take that ball, and it's very plastic, so I'm just going to place it on there. I'm going to back it up from the inside, and I'm just going to mash it down. And that's now my little smell receptor. And I can come in with this and put 1, 2, 3, 4, just like I planned. And so now he's got a little smell receptor right on his head right there. That way he can smell prey that's moving around. And I'll add those around the body after I take care of all my armor, because I don't want to have to work around that. I want it to look like it's sitting on the surface near it. So now I'll step away again, I'll go back and add a bunch of details, and then I'll come back and I'll show you. It's pretty much finished. We've got one other thing to do at the bottom, but it's just a coil and it's very similar to this. So I'm not going to demo that. I will create it and I'll come back and show you the finished piece.